All right, y'all. Give praise, esteem, and honor to Abba and Shamayim in the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Pick this up at John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Alahym in you. I come in my Abba's name, you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Alahym only? Do not think that I will accuse you. The Abba is one that accused you, even Moses in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? All esteem and praise to Abba and Shamayim. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach. Let's hit this John 3 and 22. After these things came Yahushua and his disciples into the land of Yehuda. Amen. And there he tarried with them and immersed. And Yachanan also was immersing in Enon near to Salem, because there was much water there, and they came and were immersed. For Yachanan was not yet Shalom, Brother Mama. For John was not yet cast into prison. There arose a question of John's disciples and the Yahudim about purifying. And there came unto him John and said unto him, Rabbi, he that was with you beyond Jordan, to whom you bear witness, behold, the same immerse, and all come to him. John answered and said, a man can receive nothing except to be given to him from heaven. You yourselves also bear witness that I said, I am not the Mashiach, but I am sent before him. He that hath the bride is the bridegroom, but the friend of the bridegroom, which stand and hear him, rejoice greatly because of the bridegroom's voice. This is my joy fulfilled. He must increase, but I decrease. He that come from above is above all, and he that is of the earth is earthly, and speak of the earth. He that come from Shamayim is above all. And what he hath seen and heard, that he testified, no man received his testimony. He that received his testimony hath set to a seal that Alahym is true. For he whom Alahym hath sent speak the words of Alahym. For Alahym give not the Ruach by measure. The Abba loved the Son, and have given all things into his hand. He that believe on the Son have everlasting life. He that believe not on the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of Alahym abide on him. So let me see what hey, be quiet, son. Be quiet, son. I said I was going to do 2 Samuel 13 for Jeremiah James Bird. So come over here to 2 Samuel 13. Because I got Absalom's story. It's 2 Samuel 13 and 1. And it came to pass that after this, the Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister, whose name was Tamar, and Ammon, the son of David, loved her. Ammon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister, Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Ammon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Ammon had a friend whose name was Jonadab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother, and Jonadab, a very subtle man. He said unto him, why are you, being the king's son, lean from day to day? Will you not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Verse 5. Jonadab said unto him, lay down you on your bed, make yourself sick. And when your father come to see you, say unto him, Shalom, Brother Marcus, man. What's happening, GP? I pray you let my sister Tamar come and give me meat and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see and eat it at her hand. So Ammon lay down and made himself sick. When the king was come to see him, Ammon said unto the king, I pray you let Tamar my sister come and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, go now to your brother Ammon's house and dress him to meat. Shalom, Brother Shaul. So Tamar went to her brother Ammon's house, and he was laid down. She took flour and kneaded it and made cakes in his sight and did bake the cakes. She took a pan and poured out before him, but he refused to eat. Ammon said, have out all men from me, and they went out every man from him. And Ammon said unto Tamar, bring the meat into your chamber, that I may eat of your hand. Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them into the chamber to Ammon her brother. When she brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her and said unto her, come, lie with me, my sister. She answered, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Yasharal. Peace, Brother Omar. So let's look at why she's saying that. Let's come to Leviticus 20 and 17. This is for people who may not know. I know most of y'all probably done seen this video that Drewski did about these Christian people. No, I'm only mentioning that because it seems like the Christian people are in a bigger uproar than the Israelites were. You know what I'm saying? I'm only mentioning this here, and I'll probably touch on some of these things because it spawned them saying this normal rhetoric of, do people believe the pastor should be poor? And I think some stuff get conflated because one dude said, like, if a church bring in, let me look and see what he said. Because I think it's something that we done talked about on here before. Like, I think some people get it conflated. Like when they see, he said, if a church brings in or raises in million a year, let's say 20, and they give it back and give out millions, and they also pay their pastor $1 million, that doesn't bother me. Now, here's the reality of the situation. Most churches don't bring in millions, much less 20 million. You know what I'm saying? Now, he said he was only referring to mega churches, but he didn't specify that. You know what I'm saying? But then the reality is mega churches are really the minority of the mass majority of churches. You know, mega churches get most of the attention, but they're not, like, there's no mega church in Jacksonville for real. If there was a mega church in Jacksonville, it would have been First Baptist. But First Baptist eventually had membership dwindle. But nevertheless, I'll be interspersing that in. That just hit my mind as I was flipping the page because people talking about this here, right? It's a lot of scripturally misinformed people as it pertains to that. Because the lady said, if God, let me say what this lady said to me, man. Because these people be saying anything. She said, money is neutral in a tool. When it hits someone's hand, it does expose their heart. But that's not the first thing she said. Somebody said, why do people want pastors to be poor so bad? And I don't even think that it's that people want pastors to be poor per se. I think it's the aspect of they see people who are clearly exploiting these people. She said, wealth is spiritual. See, that's the first mistake. This son, and I'm pointing this stuff out is because it's just not a Christian thing. This something you need to know. Ain't nothing spiritual about no wealth. Nothing. You can't read that nowhere in the text. Ain't nothing spiritual about. You have to ask yourself this question. Matter of fact, I'm going to pause that. When we were looking at the things where they were tempting the Lord, right? We looked at what they said to him about the money. Y'all remember that? Because see, this popping in my brain, and I don't want to divert too much, but that junk really is irritating my spirit. You know what I'm saying? Because that junk really don't really be making no sense. Let me find this here, what we're talking about. Come over here to Matthew 22 real quick. You did? Let me read Leviticus 20 and 17 while I'm over here. If a man shall take his sister, his father's daughter, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, it is a wicked thing. That shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He have uncovered his sister's nakedness, he shall bear his iniquity. So he wicked as hell for doing that, first and foremost. You know what I'm talking about? Shalom, Brother Ernest, man. Shalom, Sister Regina. Yeah, won't delay with your... Now, see, we're going to read what she said. Oh, you're going to compound the folly by trying to take it. Because you already ain't supposed to be in here with me in the first place. You want to make it worse and take it. But come over here to Matthew 22. Because I know they be talking about, I didn't know they called that dude Mike Todd. They call him, Shalom, Brother Robert. They call him Hips. Because there's a photograph of him with that same Christian Dior suit that Drewski had on. You know what I'm saying? I think some people issue, because I told the lady, scripturally, it's a multi-layered and nuanced thing when it comes to certain things. You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, the point that I be getting to is you shouldn't be looking at if a pastor is rich or poor anyway. If you're concerned with that, you worrying about the wrong thing. You know what I'm saying? And I ain't just gonna say no pastor, just a preacher, period. You worrying about the wrong thing. Because like I told the lady, whether he be rich, it don't mean God with him. And whether he be poor, it don't mean God is against him. And just because he poor don't mean God with him. And just because the person is not rich don't mean God is against them. You know what I'm saying? Because she was like, that's a religious mindset. And I know these Christian people, and so they don't be really knowing the word for real. You know what I'm saying? Because if you go back and to look at the original people who created the assembly, you know what I mean, the apostles and the men that they ordained, these men weren't talking about prosperity and wealth and any of those things. Like I seen a lady today say she wouldn't be a part of a church if they were apolitical. She was like, they need to pick a side. If this MAGA, if this, that, there, and the third. And I get from a modern standpoint why you would think that way. But we've talked about this before. Them being at Peter, them, and James and Barnabas and all them, they wouldn't have gave a damn about Roman politics or nothing that the Roman government had going on. They wouldn't even been involved. They wouldn't have been involved. They wouldn't have been talking about no policies that the Romans were interacting because it's none of our business. And a lot of us have a hard time understanding that ain't none of our business. But nevertheless, Matthew chapter 22, verse 15. Then went the Pharisees and took counsel that they may entangle him in his talk. They sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that you are true and teach the way of Alahym and truth. Neither care you for any, for you regard not the person of men. Tell us therefore, what think you? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Yahushua perceived their wickedness and said, why tempt you me, you hypocrites? Now notice what he said. Why are you trying to prove me, you unfaithful men? Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. This is the first aspect of where you're going to understand why I'm reading this here, where you know wealth isn't spiritual. Because number one, let me ask y'all this question. He said he's very hippie. He definitely looked like a woman. That nigga built bad. You know what I'm talking about? That nigga built bad. I don't even know how a nigga get hips. You know what I'm talking about? I don't even know how a grown man get hips unless he been doing something that thou shalt not speak out loud. I seen men who ain't never worked out and got fat and ain't had hips. That nigga got hips. That nigga look like a hoe. That nigga look like a hood grandma. But let me ask y'all this here, man. In ancient antiquity, what would be considered for one to be wealthy? What would he have to have? And I can read this to you out of the text. That's why I'm asking you this. I told the lady first and foremost, baby, you can't be wealthy with fiat currency. The fact you said that out loud showed me you ain't too smart. I ain't gonna say that you're not too smart. Land, cattle, etc. Indeed, good sir. So let's come over here to Genesis 13. And or precious metal. That's it. Gold, silver, cattle, and precious metals, things of that sort. So, where we at with it, man? What Genesis 13 at? What the verse I need? This is in chapter 12. There it is, 13:1. I'm tripping. Genesis 13:1. See, I grew up with a few dudes who've always been hippie. As a man, if somebody called me hippie, boy, somebody gotta die. Yes, cattle, amigos. Yeah, unless you calling me a Willie Nelson hippie. That means I like to smoke weed and peace and love, man. You calling me hippie because I got wide hips? Go ahead, let me catch that fade. I ain't on that. Abram went up out of the Mizraim, he and his wife and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. Abraham was very rich in cattle, silver, and gold. Because another lady got offended with me when she was like, people shouldn't get married for love because marriage was for a transfer of wealth and land. And then she mentioned the Bible. See, this is what people get upset at. There's no need. I won't mention nothing to you, but now you've introduced the word into it. Because she would say, even in the Bible, they had handmaids. But see, this is the reality of the situation. Everybody in Israel didn't have handmaids. Only the wealthy in Israel had handmaids. You know what I'm saying? We see handmaid and you think every woman in Israel had a handmaid, and they did not. Now, see, she got upset because I mentioned her with land in this regard. Y'all should know from your law in the land that everybody had a tribal inheritance. So therefore, land could not be traded from person to person. You know what I'm saying? And when she mentioned that, she got upset when I'm like, baby, you're mixing cultures. You can't take what the Europeans do and then say in the Bible they do this because there's different cultures. This is why I've been real adamant over the last 8 to 9 months of mentioning to you about understanding cultural context of the people who you're looking at. If you're looking at the Philistines, you need to understand the cultural context of how they live. If you're looking at Edomites, you need to understand the cultural context of how they live. If you look at Babylonians, I'm mentioning that because nobody lived like Israel lived. These people, we've looked at it, whether it's in Micah 4, whether it's in Isaiah, these people had their own gods. They had their own ways. Whether we looked at Acts 16, when he said, hey, this man is teaching customs for us that are not lawful for us to keep, considering that we're Romans. You cannot take a Western mindset and or a broad brush mindset and think everybody lived exactly the same, because they did not. Each group of people had their own laws, their own culture, their own way of doing things, and Israelites did not marry for the purposes of transferring wealth. They did not marry for the purposes of transferring land. Now, Europeans did that. That's a white thing, because Africans don't even marry and transfer land. That's not something they do. You know why? Because that land is an inheritance that stays into the family of the man who owns it. So no family is going to give land to another man's family unless that's the dowry he's going to pay. And don't nobody pay dowries with no land. Now, white men did this, and you can see that. White people did this. Melanated people, whether they be Shemites or Hamites, they did not do this. Research it and look it up for yourself. They didn't do that, especially not no Israelite. You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm only mentioning this here because, unfortunately, what I've noticed in my lifetime, not just recently because I'm mentioning it, is that people want to be authoritative on scriptures and they don't really know them. And then when you're mentioning things, not even to be combative or contentious, they be ready to fight because this exposes what they don't know. This is why a lot of Bruce was upset with Drewski's skit with them. This is why a lot of Christians are upset with this skit, because they know that these men are exploiting them financially. Like, he literally showed in this skit, this man pulling up in a Rolls Royce, and this man said, can you pray for my wife? And he was like, did you pay your tithes and offerings? Nah. And he skirted off. And that's not no lie. I seen a news story of a lady who was put out of church, an old woman, because they said she didn't pay tithes and offerings. You understand? And I always take that opportunity when that stuff come up with these people to let them know you only supposed to be paying tithes 3 times a year. And it's not and telling people it's not a tenth of your income. It's a tenth of your increase. For those 3 times a year that every man is supposed to show up and not show up empty-handed, because you would need to know that. You would need to know that. And then when some people say tithes wasn't money, they don't realize that cattle and produce was the money of the time. It's bigger than shekels and dollars. You know what I'm talking about? It's bigger than that. Man, if you had a whole gang of cattle, boy, you was rich, boy. Even when you look at the aspect of slavery, chattel slavery in the United States of America, right? The more slaves you had, the more wealthy you were. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't contingent on how much money they had, because if you had more slaves, that means you had more land, which means you had more crops to harvest, and that's where your wealth came from, because they had real money. You don't have real money now. So the reality is nobody's wealthy. I don't care how much money you got. If Bill Gates don't have no precious metals, no crops, no actual natural things, in the reality of life, he's not wealthy, because all his money is on a computer screen. The nigga can wipe it out. You know what I'm saying? Now, this is for perspective. You understand? Because this ain't how some Israelite mention stuff, so you just feel like you just float through life and don't nothing matter. This is for you to have perspective on what wealth really is. It's natural resources and precious metals. You know what I'm talking about? If you don't have that, then you really don't have wealth. Wealth is not the accumulation of Federal Reserve notes, because they're debt notes. So just by definition, you can't be wealthy with a note that represents a debt owed by the country who's issuing you the note. Nevertheless, let me read this again, man. Genesis 13:1. Abram went up out of Mizraim, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him into the south. Abram, was very rich in cattle, in silver, and in gold. Now I'm going to read the definitions of those words in a moment. I want you to come over here to Genesis 24 and 34 while I pull these definitions up. Hey, y'all sit down and be quiet. No, this is not the time for what you're trying to do. Be quiet, Joanne. When we look at rich, it is kabod, kaf, bat, and dalet. One of the definitions is to make abundant. There's multiple definitions. Most of them is to get glory to oneself, to be made heavy, to enjoy honor, to be heavy, weighty, and also to be rich. To be rich is just one of the first definition. The first definition is to be heavy, to be weighty, to be grievous, to be hard, rich, honorable, glorious, burdensome, or to be honored. And for the most part, that word means to be honored. So when you sit back and you look at it, he was honored with cattle. That would be, you would take that in the aspect that God honored him with that. Well, let's go to Genesis 24 and 35. Well, 34, I said. Then I'll come back to Matthew. And he said, I'm Abraham's servant. Yahuwah Baruch my master greatly. He has become great. He has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and men servants and maid servants and camels and asses. So again, we're just establishing that on what the aspect of wealth was at that particular time. And it was no different during Mashiach's time also. Let's come back to Matthew 22. Also to take into account, because it's really what was cycling through my brain, because we just read the verse the other day. That's in Luke 12, where he say, take heed and beware of covetousness, because a man's life does not consist in the abundance of things that he possesses. Or how he says they hear your words, but they won't do them because their heart go after their covetousness, which means it goes after their lust. And that's what I think a lot of people don't realize. Let me finish reading this latest statement too, before this junk swipe away on my phone. I probably already did. She said, wealth is spiritual and essential mindset that is layered. Most think wealth is tangible, and it can be, but that's not where it starts. Wealth dominion is stewardship. I agree. No, your motivation shouldn't be just money. At that point, you'd be chasing mammon. But God does raise up some of us who are assigned to abundance. See, that's that statement of being assigned to abundance. That's Christian talk, prosperity Christian talk at that. Because the book don't say nothing like that. He don't say he assigned. If he says he assigned somebody to abundance, he ain't talking about no natural things. And we can read that in John 10 also. Say based on our assignment. See, now when you hear people say based on the assignment, what do y'all think that means? We'll look at scripturally what that means to have an assignment, because you know that's what people like to say, that's not my assignment. What do y'all believe an assignment is? And then we'll see what the word says an assignment is. He said, I think for so long, most people haven't moved forward because they demonize the tool. That's why I do what I do to help people in this area. Because she says that she's a wealth person. She say money is neutral in a tool. When it hits someone's hand, it does expose the heart. So yes, people do have to be mindful, but nowhere in the Bible does it say his servants must be poor. Now, I didn't say that his servants must be poor. What I said was the apostles were poor and the Lord was poor. These were not rich men. We know this based off the statement that Paul made in 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And we can read that also. He wants to make sure you know he is the source and not to create an identity around money or things. God gave us dominion over everything except people. So I guess not material wealth either. See, that's not accurate either, because God did give certain people dominion over people. You know what I'm talking about? And he never gave anybody dominion over money. He gave them dominion. He gave Adam dominion over the cattle and the land and his wife. This is what I mean. Now, this is not to castigate this lady, because she probably don't know. Just like he says, is it terrible? Because why would God have his servants laboring out of lack? But see, remember what the Lord told his apostles. He told them, don't take nothing with you and don't go from house to house. But whatever them people put in front of you, take that. Now, why do you think he told them don't go house to house? Because that would you be being greedy for filthy lucre when you trying to come up. Be satisfied and content with what they gave you, because he said, give us this day your daily bread, because the only thing he promised you was food and raiment. And that's it. You know what I'm talking about? All this stuff is extra stuff that people take from other verses and try to put them together in here. You know what I'm saying? It's not a knock. Again, this is not to say that you can't come up with this, that, and the third. It's to disannul things that are not biblically accurate. You know what I'm saying? That people make statements and really to justify themselves in their own mind for the things that they desire. See, she calls herself a kingdom wealth business coach. Ain't no such damn thing as a kingdom wealth business coach. Mika says an assignment means something divine they were sent to do. Listen, ain't nobody been sent to do nothing about no abundance. Now let's go to 1 Corinthians 12 and you can see what the assignments are. Because when you look at these things, these people think these things bring in glory to God, but they not. Yes, something only for you to do to an extent. But this is what the text say. This is what an assignment is. I want you to come to 1 Corinthians 12 and 4. Because any quote-unquote assignment would technically be a gift of the Ruach. So then it would have to be something that's of the administration of the Ruach. You say, I looked at assigned scripture as being appointed, but they misconstrue it. And I would agree. I would agree with that. And I would agree with how Mika put it from their context. Now, there's diversity of gifts, but of the same Ruach. There are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. There are diversity of operations, but it's the same Alahym which work all in all, but the manifestation of the Ruach is given to every man to profit withal. For one is given by the Ruach the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge, by the same Ruach, to another faith by the same Ruach, to another gifts of healing by the same Ruach, to another working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another discerning of Ruachs, to another kinds of tongues, to another interpretation of tongues. That's an assignment. You know what I'm talking about? And then, of course, it ends in the chapter in verse 28. Now you are the body of the Mashiach, and members in particular, and Alahym have said in the assembly, first apostles, secondarily prophets, thirdly teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healings, helps, governments, diversity of tongues. Are all apostles, are all prophets, are all teachers, are all workers of miracles, have all the gifts of healing, do all speak with tongues, do all interpret. So when you look at an assignment, the assignment is based off the gift of the Spirit, and that means a person would have to have the Spirit in order to have an assignment. Because it would have to be a gift of the Spirit used to minister to the body to bring glory to God's name. We'll look at one more instance of it in Romans 12. We'll come back to Matthew 22, go back to 2 Samuel 13. Because I definitely mentioned to the lady, like, you know that he said, if you think gain is godliness, you have a perverse and corrupt mind. And they got offended by that. I'm like, baby, this is the words. Yes, Sister Virginia. It's the gift of the Spirit. That's an assignment. If he give you the gift of a miracle, then that would be technically your job. You know what I'm saying? And that's why we're going to read this Romans 12 when it say, hey, the gifts differ according to the loving kindness that God gives. I'm only mentioning these things. It's not to begrudge these people because they don't be known. You know what I'm saying? But it gives us an opportunity to make sure that you understand plainly the perfect will of God and not just going along with statements or even making statements yourself and you're not fully understanding. Because remember, in Psalms, they tell you if you sing praises, you need to sing them with understanding. Now, we also know if you without understanding, you worthy of death. So if we sit around here 3 times a week, whole weeks during certain feasts, and we don't know the simplest of things, then that's our fault. And this ain't gonna be run up and try to cut no Christian. You know what I'm talking about? Because I ain't gonna lie to you. It's hard to have conversations with some brews. It's even harder to have conversations with Christians. Only because both parties, this is not something exclusive to one, they turn to get contentious. So you have to have the ability to know how to talk to people so it don't turn that way. Like, I don't think I said this to y'all, right? I had a conversation with a lady on Thread. She was saying, don't mess with anybody who ever been to jail because she believed they've been with a man. You know what I'm saying? And she made a statement, and I was like, I thought it was a dude. So before I realized it was a lady, I was like, nah, blood, I was like, I did 5. If you went to prison and messed with a man, it's because you like men before you got there. You know what I'm saying? I've told you that before. Now, it's not just with that, right? I look at you are who you are no matter where you go. You don't get somewhere and then all of a sudden develop a new desire. You always had that desire. You just may have not had the opportunity to act on that desire. I'm mentioning this because the young lady made a point that I had never considered because I never thought that way. And what she mentioned was she likened men messing with men in that environment to a man who messes with an obese woman who he doesn't find physically attractive, but he's in a dry spell, so he needs a physical release. So he has coitus with her, even though he doesn't desire her. And I say, you know what? Based on your rationale, I could see how you could come to that conclusion because I've never done that. I ain't never seen no woman like, boy, I ain't had none in a while, and I don't find her physically attractive, but I'm going to lay with her anyway. Because she said, I just looked at it as, men look at it as an orifice is an orifice. I need to get off, so I'm going to get off. I can't even really argue with you on that, baby, because that's a fair assessment from your point of view if you looking at it like that. Because if you looking at a man and you know a man's having relations with a woman he don't find physically attractive, I can see how you could come to the conclusion, oh, he can't get a woman, so he'll be with a dude. But because I didn't come and fight her, and number one, because I could acknowledge when you make a fair point, because I told her that's not my experience. I ain't never went and fooled with no woman. I'm like, I don't really like her like that, but I'm gonna go ahead and mess with her. I ain't never done that. So I'm like, yeah, that's not going, nah. You know what I mean? But then as the conversation progresses, you able to talk to people. Now we talked about this last week, you also have to have the wisdom to know, as Mika just stated, if they're getting defensive and that defensive leads to contention, you have to know when to just abort that conversation. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody can't have a conversation even if you don't agree. Now, the lady that I just read, she was having a reasonable conversation, so it was reasonable. She wasn't being contentious. She's speaking from her point of view. This is why I've been telling y'all lately, like, hear people's point of view. Understand their point of view. Try to communicate to them from their point of view, your point of view, so they can understand where you're coming from, because you're taking the time to understand where they're coming from. You don't have to agree with somebody to understand where they're coming from. And that way you can have a meeting of a mind. You might be able to impart some information that they can consider, and maybe they turn to later on. It don't got to be a fight. You know what I mean? Like, everything ain't got to be a fight. It's just a conversation. You've got different points of views. You got different perspectives. Everybody ain't been taught the same. We don't ever want to get to the point, and I'm not saying that any of us are doing this. I'm just speaking just period. Where you feel like I know this, and why you won't know this, so I'm going to talk down to you. That's not an effective way to minister. You feel me? That's not an effective way to reach the hearts and minds of people that you seek to draw to God, as we profess to say that we out here trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Because anybody can be right, but can anybody bring people to the God who they believe is the purveyor and giver and sustainer of life, of the souls of everything under heaven? You understand what I'm saying? Lady who will be esteemed. But come over here to Romans 12. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office. Now, when he say office, that's the same thing. You can see that in in Chronicles when he said the Levites wait upon their business, office and occupation. He said, I've heard that same type of opinion about men who've been, because now let's just look at this from this point of view. Because these were women who were making these statements. And usually they're going to make these statements based off of their personal experiences with men. In general, most women believe that men will have sex with anyone at any time, and that most men have no sexual discipline whatsoever. Whether that's true or not is irrelevant. This is the reality that they believe exists. So that's going to be reality to them in their mind. So they believe if a man is incarcerated because men only want to have sex in their mind, and that they don't care who they will have sex with. This is why they perceive things that way. Let me find out what she said. So this is what the lady had said. Said a man is going to do what a man got to do. So when they come out and they still choose ladies, so they not gay. They just had no other choice. When given the choice, they'll always choose women. So in the reality, when they say that, they believe she's saying not all these niggas gay. And that if you don't have a choice, you'll have sex with a man. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, nah, you had to be on that before you got there. You do not start having sex with men out of nowhere. Now she made this point. She said, I never did time besides all bookings. She said, for the men who did it, I don't think they desire men. They just desire any hole. And she said, my question is, if you already acted on it, why stop when you get released if you be gay? Then she mentioned, I don't believe you 5 years in and nothing happened. No way you had zero discipline outside but had all the self-control in prison. Now, see, she intimated all of these things. And that's when I had to tell her, baby, I wasn't a whore before I went to prison. And I really don't give a damn what you believe or you think, to be 100% honest with you. But, so she said, it's not like having sex with an unattractive fat girl because you're in a dry season. I always consider those the mental equivalent. You don't actually desire her, but you have the need to put your part in a woman. I figured in jail it's the same. But you're saying those men were always gay. It's not a reach the end of the like type of thing. And when I told her, I could see why she would say that. You know what I'm saying? Then she said, I never understood that level of freakiness. And those type of dudes I mentioned are the type that do animals if they need to. Now, what she's referring to is a small segment of men who have no sexual restraint. And I think I told y'all this before. Man, dudes who masturbate a lot, I do genuinely believe a man who touches himself an indiscriminate amount of times, I believe he would have sex with a man because he's overcome with lust. Now, individuals who will overcome with lust, they have no restraint. And that's what the 2 Samuel 13 is about. We'll read certain epistle letters that pertain to lasciviousness and things of that nature. Because when you're overcome with lust, that lust becomes unbridled. And it'll become unrestrained. And the only thing that will satiate that lust is pleasure. And when you get like that, you in a bad way, for real, blood. I ain't gonna lie to you. You know what I'm saying? And it ain't just got to be sex. It can be whatever. You know what I'm saying? We can't be the servants of God and be mired and wired in lust like that. You know what I'm saying? And when I'm talking about lust, I'm talking about the definition of lust, that the things that are forbidden or uncontrolled lust. Because having desire is not wrong. It's what you're desiring. And many people don't desire the things of God, unfortunately. So therefore, it can lead you in the wrong place. But nevertheless, Romans 12:5. So we being one body, many are in a Mashiach, everyone members one of another, having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given us, whether prophecy according to the proportion of faith, or service, let us wait on our service, or he that teach on teaching, he that exhort on exhortation, he that give, let him do with simplicity, he that rule with diligence, he that show mercy with cheerfulness. Let love be without dissimulation. Abhor that which is evil, cleave to that which is good. Be kindly affectionate one to another with brotherly love and honor, preferring one another. Not slothful in business, fervent in ruach, serving the Lord. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing instant in prayer. Distributing this to the necessity of saints, given to hospitality. Bless them which persecute you, bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one towards another, mind not high things, but be condescend to men of low estate. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. And if it be possible, as much as lie in you, live peaceably with all men. He said what she need to do is look at women who've been to prison. She may wind up having the same opinion of her own. And I do think that what you say is valid. And I also think that her opinion is valid based on the rationale that she came up with. Of men having sex with women who they don't deem to be physically attractive. When we take a step back and you look at that, that's fair. Because if you're not attracted to her and you say you're not attracted to men, but you have a desire to have a physical release, well, what's the difference? And the reality is there ain't no difference. You know what I'm saying? And the reason why I would have never been able to put that one together that she came up with, because I've never done that. If I don't find you attractive, I don't want to lay with you. I don't care what you offering. I don't care. Baby, I'm good. But the reason being is I was never ruled by lust to have that problem. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean when sometimes you have to sit back and look at, even if it's not your personal experience or your personal perspective, that doesn't necessarily always erase the validity of someone else's perspective from a vantage point that they're looking at, and it could be just as valid. You know what I'm saying? Because I ain't never lived like that. Some of y'all may have lived like that. Matter of fact, my homeboy sent me a video of a dude. He had a morbidly obese woman he was trying to sneak out the house. And he told me when him and our other homeboy lived together, he called him doing that. You know what I'm saying? The same way I told him when I was talking to them boys, and I'm like, if I'm broke, I don't want no sex. They was like, oh, nigga, you tripping. But to me, I'm looking at y'all like, y'all niggas goofies. You worry about having sex and your pockets ain't straight? That's what you concerned with? I couldn't fathom it. You know what I'm saying? I need to get me some money. But everybody's not the same. Everybody's mindset's not the same. Amen, Sister Gina. So that's why I'm mentioning these things based off what the sister was saying, for you to understand this her mindset. Her mindset is error book-wise. But based on how she's been taught or how she perceived the text, she don't see it that way. But God don't teach these things. You know what I'm talking about? Come back to Matthew 22. But as you see what an assignment is biblically, it's all things for people to serve one another in the body that bring esteem to God, that cause many thanks to redound unto his name. He said that's an unspeakable gift. And we've talked about that plenty of times before about, hey, man, everybody got a different job. Nobody's job is greater than the other. The person who serves job is not lesser than the preacher. People think the preacher is the greatest job because people want the fame and notoriety that they perceive come from that. And I believe that's only the case because here in the Western, at least in this time period, in Western society, you glamorize the preacher. You've made him a celebrity. You've made him an over-the-top personality. You've placed him on a pedestal. So people see that. They see the power, the fame, the influence that they perceive come with the job. Regardless if the mass majority of pastors have that, that's what people perceive from that job, so they want it. Because a lot of dudes want to have sex with the women. They want the money. They want the praise. They want to be exalted. They want all of these things. It's very few men that do this because they want the word to be ministered so that souls could hear the words of salvation through the testimony of Yahushua HaMashiach, to the praise of his Abba and Shamahim, to the deliverance of men from sin and death. That's not why everybody not in this for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? And we have to come to that conclusion to know that everybody not doing this for the right reasons. You know what I'm saying? At all. You're dealing with human beings who are moved by lust, envy, jealousy, pride. You know what I'm talking about? Desirous for vainglory and a multitude of things. That's why he says a steward must be found faithful. But nevertheless, 22 and 17, Matthew. Tell us, therefore, what think you? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Yahushua perceived their wickedness and said, why tempt you me, you hypocrites? Show me the tribute money. And they brought unto him a penny. And he said unto him, them whose Who is this image and superscription? They said unto him, Caesar's. Then he said unto them, render therefore unto Caesar's the things which are Caesar's, and unto Alahym the things that are Alahym. And when they heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. So when you look at that, ain't nothing spiritual about no wealth. Ain't nothing spiritual about that. You know what I'm saying? But this is where you have some people who tell you sex is spiritual. Ain't nothing spiritual about having court. These are all natural things. Spiritual beings don't have a need for sex or money. They don't have a need for any of those things. You know what I'm saying? And we need to understand it. See, let me read you something in Galatians, right? Let me read you something in Galatians, man. 5, if you would. I know I mentioned 2 Corinthians 4. I guess I'll read that, or what Paul say, the things that they had to experience. This is Galatians 5 and 13. 5 and 13. And we'll look at that as a juxtaposition of what bro had going on with his brother. You feel me? For brethren, you have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. Now we know we free among the dead, coach sheep. No tax, no debt, no obligation. We don't have no debt or obligation to sin. We don't have that to death, and we don't have that to the flesh, because Yahushua has freed us from these things. You understand? So you don't take that freedom as an opportunity to dally in your flesh. No, that's not what we do. For the law is fulfilled in one word, even this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, take heed that you be not consumed one of another. This I say then, walk in the Ruach, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. So a lot of individuals, because they were having that argument this morning about what it means to have the law in your heart. And the thing that people always come up with is you're going to slip, you know what I'm saying, all this type of stuff. Or say to have the law in your heart and the Tanakh. See, he said to have the law in your heart and the Tanakh. He didn't put it there, though. That's why Psalms say he desired true wisdom in the inward parts. He didn't put it there, though. With the new covenant, he telling once you become one with that, he putting that in there. And when he because they think it make you a robot. Nah, I bring the word to mind. And when they bring the word to mind, you're going to walk in it. Not because the word is forcing you to walk in it, but because of your faith, love, fear, trust, hope in your God, you fulfill his will than to fulfill your own. You understand? But we don't really look at it that way. You know what I'm saying? Come over here to John 10, because I mentioned that about the abundance part. And then we get 2 Corinthians 4. John 10 and 7. Now we're going to look at what he said you should have more in abundance. It's not the stuff them people talking about. And we're going to look at the Greek word for life when we see it. And then we'll go to 2 Corinthians 4 and then back to 2 Samuel 13. Then, this is John 10 and 7. Then said Yahushua unto them again, truly, truly, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear them. I am the door, but if by me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief come not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life and that they might have it more abundantly. Now he came to say that you might have life. Now, some individuals will take this and they'll try to make it mean a multitude of things outside of what he is communicating. So if he's communicating that he wanted you to have life and to have that abundantly, that is Zoe, life, the state of one who is possessed of vitality or is animate, every living soul, life, the absolute fullness of life, both essential and ethical, which belongs to Alahym. And through him both to that's some old Christian stuff, ain't got nothing to do with nothing. Life, real, genuine life, active and vigorous, devoted to Alahym, blessed in the portion, even in this world, of those who put their trust in the Mashiach. But after the resurrection, to be consummated by new accessions, among them a more perfect body, and to last forever. That's what he said, that you might have more in abundance, not more in abundance of natural things. That's not what he's talking about. One of the biggest mistakes that most people make when they look at the scriptures, man, for real, is that they try to make it fit this time period that we living in with the statements that they making. And they're not making statements based off of a 21st century lifestyle. This is how people rationalize to justify certain things in their mind. You know what I'm saying? See, they make it about money. Yeah, they're going to make it about money because they're going to go to abundance. And see, when they say abundance, but this man talking about that you might have the abundance of life. So for us who know the text, you know what that's going to tell us, Sister Regina? We're going to go right back to Daniel 9:27 when he said he came to make an end of sins, to finish the transgression, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, to anoint the most Hadash. This is so that you might have life and have it in abundance. You know what I'm saying? Because now you have the life that comes from God, because God lived forever. So therefore, the life that he gives is going to be given in abundance, because he say the thief come to steal, kill, and destroy. So what is he coming to steal? He coming to steal life from you. He coming to destroy life from you. You know what I'm saying? Everything that is of God, he coming to take it. He coming to destroy it, because that's what he do. But because, unfortunately, living in the United States of America, the mass majority of people don't make a lot of money. So the reality of the situation is the majority of people in America are poor. They don't believe that they're poor, but based on the money, the amount of money they take to be in the middle class, now most people are literally the working poor. Most of, like I said, we don't consider it that way because you still have certain creature comforts. You can still do this, you can still do that. So you don't really perceive that financially the majority of Americans are in a way worse state than they actually are. And you know how we know this? Because your wages are stagnant, but the cost of living continues to rise. I'll give you an example. The federal minimum wage is $7.25. This is 2026. The federal minimum wage was $4.25 when I started working at Winn-Dixie. $4.25. So you're saying, and this was in 1996. So you're saying in 30 years, the minimum wages only went up $3. That's it. Let me check to make sure the federal minimum wage is still $7.25. I don't want to be saying nothing wrong. Now, the minimum wage in the state of Florida is not that low, because each state can make their own minimum wage. The federal minimum wage, it says the bill to decrease the federal minimum wage was to increase it to $10.59 actually began on the 1st. And it's going to be increased by $4 annually from 2027 to January 2030. But as of 2025, it is $7.25 per hour. But they're going to aim to gradually increase it to hit at least $17 an hour by 2030. $7.25 is the federal minimum wage, bro. $7.25. The federal minimum wage, when I started, and it went up to $5.15 not too long after I started working at Winn-Dixie in 1996. You're saying in a 30-year span, the federal minimum wage only had went up $2.90 from when I got my first job 30 years ago. Boy, everything that you ever thought of paying for has went up exponentially more than $2.90 in 30 years. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at that, that's just the reality. That now the Florida minimum wage, if my memory serves me correctly, I believe it's like $15. Florida minimum wage is $15 an hour. And they said that before. Oh no, currently it's $14 an hour. It will be $15 an hour by the time by September 30th of this year. So right now, state minimum wage is $14 an hour in the state of Florida. Now ask yourself a good question. $14 an hour ain't a lot of money if that's the minimum amount they have to pay you. You know what I'm saying? So that's just to put stuff in perspective. That in general, most people in this country are not rich, not even close to it. And of course, we talked about this a while ago, man. They said you're going to have to need $5 million to retire, which is probably going to be a lot higher by the time most of y'all get close to being of retirement age. That means the mass majority of people are going to have to work till they die, because Social Security not going to cut it. If Social Security is even around when most of y'all hit 65. You know what I'm saying? So it's a game that they playing. But like she said, like Sister Regina mentioned, what they shoot you in the church, you know what I'm saying? He said, as of January 2026, the minimum wage in Texas remains $7.25 an hour. My God, today. So when you look at, in general, what the church teach you about abundance and wealth and things of this nature, they feeding you a fallacy, because these men already know you never going to get abundance in this place. And it's not because you're unintelligent. It's not because you don't work hard. It's because it wasn't designed for you to do so. See, capitalism is not built on the mass majority of people having wealth. That's not how capitalism is built. Capitalism is built, reality with, hey man, best man win. So the reality is the best men is not going to be everybody. So individuals who know how to play the game, they know how to play the game to be able to maximize benefits for themselves. It's never going to be maximized benefits for the whole. That's not how it's set up. It's not supposed to be set up that way. And it is what it is. 2 Corinthians 4. I'm going to find the verse, man. That's not it. That's not it. I don't see what I'm looking for. Come on to 2 Corinthians 4 and 7. I'll start with that. You know, it is what it is, man. It's just, I mean, even not being in the word, I had already knew, like, shoot. There is no economic system that man has ever came up with to where everybody is going to be wealthy or everybody's going to be rich. Because everybody wasn't rich in Yasharal. You know what I'm saying? He told you that the poor will always be amongst you. There's never been a time period in human history where everybody had it. That's just not how it works. It's never worked that way. It ain't gonna work that way. You know what I'm saying? Because you have one variable that no one ever accounts for, and that's the lust and greed of man. And it just is what it is. You know what I mean? He said, but we have, this is 2 Corinthians 4 and 7, but we have this treasure in earthen vessels, that the excellency of the power may be of Alahym and not of us, troubled on every side, yet not distressed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not forsaken, cast down, but not destroyed. Now, these are the things that he mentions, but hold on. So I need to find the verse where he mentioned all the things that the apostles had to go through. Now, this is not saying that everybody is going to go through this, but it just is what it is. What you talking about, boy? Ain't the verse ringing in my head, but the location is escaping me. What was you talking about, boy? Oh, that's what it was, because I was in the wrong Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 4. It wasn't 2 Corinthians 4. It was 1 Corinthians 4. 1 Corinthians 4 and 8. Say only in the kingdom, but that won't even exist anymore. That's only the world without poverty. Indeed, because in the kingdom, yeah, those type of things won't even matter. Indeed. Now you are full, now you are rich, you have reigned as kings without us, and I would to Alahym that you did reign, that we also might reign with you. For I think that Alahym have set forth us the apostles last, as it were appointed to death, for we are made a spectacle unto the world, unto Malachim, and to men. We are fools for Hamashiach's sake, but you are wise in Hamashiach. We are weak, but you are strong. You are honorable, but we are despised. Even to this present hour, we both hunger and thirst. and are naked, and are buffeted, and have no certain dwelling place, and labor, working with our own hands, being reviled, we bless, being persecuted, we suffer it, being defamed, we entreat. We are made as the filth of the world, and of the offscouring of all things unto this day. And this is the thing that the Christian church does not necessarily communicate, simply because they don't want to take those things on. Like lady was saying earlier, like these people say Jesus was rich, woo, woo, woo. And this man literally said he ain't have nowhere to lay his head at. That's not what no rich man say. No, was he rich in materially? No. Was he rich in faith? Of course. This is the king of the whole world. But he suffered. This is something that most people don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear this man talking about we was naked and hungry, slapped up, having no certain dwelling place. Don't nobody want to hear that. But this is where Paul come in at when he say, hey, man, you got to be soldiers for Hamashiach's sake. You know what I'm talking about? Let me read it properly. And that's what people don't want to hear, because that's a hard saying, if you would. Right there, man, 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 3, that you must endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach. Don't nobody want to hear that? Don't nobody want to hear that, man. You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody want to hear that, because that doesn't jive in their mind of how they think things should be. Does that mean that everybody's going to be like that? No, it don't. Because that man said there were certain men who were naked and destitute, living in caves, and he said the world was not worthy of them. Let me read that for you. Because that's what people say, oh, y'all just want the servants of God to be poor. The men who serve God didn't care about these things that these people in 2026 care about. And I'm going to be 100% honest with you. If most of the apostles and the Lord Yahushua himself was still on this earth and this physical plane, the mass majority of people who profess to be Christian, the Hebrews, would not follow them. They would not listen to them. They more than likely would be the very people screaming out to stone these men. Because they would not. You got to remember something. The people didn't accept Yahushua the first time because he did not look like what they thought the anointed one would look like. He wasn't doing what they thought the anointed one would do. So they rejected him. Again, I tell you this here because we romanticize Yahushua in the time period that he lived in as if he was loved, received, and rejoiced and honored over by the mass majority of people. How could that be when they were all screaming out there to crucify him? And they said to let his blood be on their children's children. That's telling you that all them people didn't accept him. Or the fact that you got these people always trying to catch him up in his words. They always trying to kill him. You can see the people arguing amongst themselves about him. Where do you get in your mind that this man was received by everybody? Where you get that from? How did you come to that conclusion? You made that up in your own mind because that's the reality that you want to come up with because you believe in this man. But the reality was he was highly rejected. The reality was the apostles were overwhelmingly rejected. Overwhelmingly rejected. We want to look at what we call Judeo-Christian teachings and things of this nature in this modern time that we live in because it's propagated and it's churches on every corner and this, that, there, and the third. So you get in your mind that's how it was in the first century AD, and it was not. It was not. It absolutely was not. These men were persecuted and rejected. Straight up and down. And if they were living, breathing, and walking in this dispensation of time we in right now, they would reject him again. The same way I told you that lady said, oh, I don't want no church that's not political. They would reject Yahushua because I promise to you, he wouldn't be speaking on nothing Donald Trump got going on because he don't care. He ain't going to say nothing about no ICE. That's not my concern. You know why? Because he in the trenches where the bruise at. Because he too busy being about his father's business to minister the gospel to be concerned what sinners got going on. That's none of my business. Okay, you want to go pick up Hispanics and illegals? Go pick them up then. I came to feed the children the bread. I'm not sitting here talking to you about none of this stuff, boy. Now, if Donald Trump doing something that contrary to the word, he'll look Donald Trump in his face and rebuke him. But the same way he would look Donald Trump in the face and rebuke him, he'll go rebuke that pastor over there, that politician over there, and that nigga around the corner that nobody don't know. Because ain't no respected persons. If you out of pocket, you out of pocket. It don't make him no never mind. People don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that. Remember, he said, if my kingdom was of this world, my servants will fight. The government of the United States is of this world. What he give a damn about what them people got going on? That ain't none of my business. You think he gonna spend time arguing political debates, or you think he gonna spend time trying to save a soul? What you think he gonna be doing? We want him to be involved in them type of things because we hold that important, because the salvation of souls has become minimized, and that's not important anymore. You know what I'm saying? We were talking about this yesterday. Look here, man. I told y'all this before. It's not the church's job to create jobs for the community. It's not the job to build hospitals. It's not the church's job to build banks. That's not what your almighty Alahym Yahuwah of hosts created his body for. He didn't create it for that. If you want to go create a hospital, go make it then. If you want to go make a bank, go make it then. But that's not what the apostles, prophets, teachers, and evangelists are for. That's not their job. That's not their job. And you can't say he's not doing God's work because he ain't doing what you think he should be doing if he's doing what God ordained him to do. Indeed. And the congregating in people's homes, they congregated in people's homes. They was in the synagogue. They was in the temple. They was wherever you was at. Now, when you look at the United States of America, it's not the same because it's not communal. We talked about that before. But if you take that, let's just say, for instance, just using Jacksonville, right? Let's take out east. Let's say all the Israelites, for the most part, lived out east. Then that's where they would be at. Out east. Going from spot to spot. Going from doggone, you know what I'm talking about, 8th and Hubbard to Spires to Florida Ave. You know what I'm talking about, the Phoenix to Buckman. That's where they going to be at, dropping word. Off Maine. That's where they going to be at. They ain't gonna care nothing about what's going on Bay Meadows Road. We ain't over there. Unless we heard, hey boy, it's some rules over there off Spring Park and Emerson. Okay, man, take such and such and such and such and send them out there. That's how they was rolling. Send them out there then. You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna get caught up in what these people got. That's not our business. If you want to deal with that, that's fine. But that's not the objective. That's not what they were sent to do. Hebrews 11 and 36. And others had trial of cruel mocking, scourgings, yea, moreover bonds and imprisonment. They were stoned, they were sawn asunder, tempted, slain with the sword, wandered about in sheepskins, goatskins, being destitute, afflicted, tormented, of whom the world was not worthy. They wandered in deserts and mountains and dens and in caves of the earth. Now, if somebody was to say they was a servant of God and they say, man, I'm destitute and afflicted and I ain't got nowhere to stay, people in this generation will say God ain't with him. Why he poor? God wouldn't want his servants to be poor. Man, if you got Yahushua HaMashiach, you ain't never poor. But the riches that he has, and we talked about this before as it pertains even with the administering of the gospel, you can't monetize that the way you can boast and bring honor to yourself with that. You can't flex with that to the point where it bring honor to yourself. So people don't want them. They don't want them riches. He said he give out durable riches. People don't want his riches. They want the temporary riches. That's why they don't know the book say labor not to be rich, cease from your own wisdom. They don't know the book say that. They don't notice the book say if riches increase, don't set your heart on them. They don't know it say that because they heart set on them. They don't know that man say, they know that he say where your treasure is, your heart will be also, but they think that they can do both. Now they don't even realize the book say don't give me poverty or riches. Just give me food convenient for me. They don't know that that's in there. This is the totality of the situation. Don't say, hey, man, if there's those of you, let me read that part what he said in Peter about those who be rich. Because it ain't nothing wrong if you're rich. Ain't nothing wrong with it. Because obviously there were people who they brought in who were rich. But in general, most of the brews in that first century, they weren't rich like that. It made sure because it's Peter who said it. I gotta find it. I want to say it's in 1 Peter 3. Let me see. If it ain't, I'm just gonna move past it. Because it's in my brain. Might be chapter 4. Yeah, I can't. It ain't coming to mind. We ain't got time to waste for that. Somebody find it, you can post it. Come over here to 2 Samuel 13. With my mind going blank. Thankfully, my brain ain't too fogged up today. It varies from day to day. It just varies on how high my blood pressure is at any given time. 2 Samuel 13, it's going to bother me that I ain't going to find that too. But I already know my junk going to bother me like nobody business. Oh, that's what it was. I'm thinking something different. That's done dealing with servants under the yoke. This fourth is how this is 1 Timothy 6:1. That's what it was. He said, let as many servants or as under the yoke count their own masters worthy of all honor. That the name of Alahym and his doctrine be not blasphemed. And they that have believing masters, let them not despise them because they are brethren, but rather do them service because they are faithful and beloved and partakers of the benefit. These things teach and exhort. You know what I'm saying? Now, people hear masters and they think slave, but it's really just, you know what I'm saying, no different than your employer. I can give you the Greek word for it. And you look at master here in Greek, despotes, a master, a lord, a husband, or absolute ruler, a despot, a lord, or a master. The same way like how Joseph had a master in Genesis. Despotes is the word where despot comes from. But you know, the one that got authority over you. If he's a believer, he's your brother. Treat him as such. You know what I'm saying? But he also said, hey, even if they obedient or froward, amen, don't be around here acting crazy because that'll get God's name blasphemed and his word blasphemed. And your personal feelings are not greater than this man's word not being blasphemed. 2 Samuel 13 and 11. And when she brought them unto him, he took hold of her and said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. She answered him, nay, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Yasharal. Do not you this folly. I wither you shall cause my shame to go. And as for you, you shall be one of the fools in Yasharal. Now, therefore, I pray you speak unto the king, for he would not withhold me from you. So she's saying, instead of doing what you're doing, just go holler at my dad. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. Then Ammon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Ammon said unto her, arise and be gone. She said unto him, there is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that you did unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. See, he's just multiplied his folly. Number one, you laid with your sister. Then number two, you took it, which means you are as a murderer, so you should be killed. And then number three, after you did that, you sent her away. Now, I said I was going to mention certain things as it pertains to what that is, and in the epistle letters where it speaks to this unbridled lust, and that's I'm going to say it. Where is it at, man? It's like in Romans 7. Yeah, come over here to Romans 7. 7:7. Romans 7:7. What shall we say then? Is the law sin? Alahym forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust except the law shall say, thou shalt not covet. So, what is lust? In the Greek, in this particular passage, is epitheme, desire, craving, longing, desire for that which is forbidden, lust, a longing. In this instance, especially for that which is forbidden, or conspicuous is the word that I was looking for, that my mind could not put together at this particular moment. It's about to come up in verse 8. But sin, taking occasion by the commandment, wrought in me all manner of conspicuance. Without the law, sin was dead. What's going on? So when we look at that word there in the Greek, it is entole. I think I hit the wrong word. I did. And it's the same word, conspicuous for lust, that which is forbidden. So that's what he got taken by, with that which was forbidden, because his sister was forbidden from him. But see, when you have a certain amount, that's the same lust that if we look at it in the Greek, that's what hit Eve in the garden, because she had a longing and a craving. Let's look at that in Genesis 3, which was forbidden from her. And that's why you have to be able to put your lust to bed. And that's why we read that Galatians, where he said, hey, man, don't take that freedom as an occasion for your flesh. That's why I tell you the Ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak, because the flesh has a desire from things that are forbidden. 3 and 5, Genesis. For Alahym do know that in the day that you eat thereof, then your eyes shall be open, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. And when the woman saw the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, a tree desired to make one wise, she took the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband, and he did eat. Let's look at desire there. Because anything from this 2 Samuel 13 that we read, and with Tamar, after that, it's going to get in it where Absalom killed Ammon. It's how to make sure that you don't let your desire get the best of you for that which you ought not to have. Now, desired here is kamad, kat, meme, and dalet. To desire, to covet, to take pleasure in, to delight in. Desirableness. And again, this is to covet. Now, when we come back to Romans 7, I think covet will probably be the same word. When he said, I wouldn't have known lust except the law said, thou shalt not covet. And again, it's a different word, epithemo instead of epitheme, to have a desire for a long for, to desire, to lust after, to covet, or to seek those things which are forbidden, to long for rightfully or otherwise, to set your heart upon, to covet, to desire. Now, I want you to come over here to Ezekiel. You got 1 Timothy 2 and 14. All right, bet. Let me come over here to Ezekiel, right? 33. Is it 33? I think it's 33. It is. 33 and 30. Also, you son of Adam, the sons of your peoples are still talking against you by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, every one to his brother, saying, come, I pray you, and hear what the word is that come forth from Yahuwah. And they come unto you as the people come, and they sit before you as my people, and they hear your words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart go after their covetousness. So when we look at it in Hebrew, what is covetousness in Ezekiel 33? What does that mean? What does that entail? What is being communicated? Oh, I didn't read all of it. I'm sorry. And lo, you are unto them as a very lovely song, one of them that have a pleasant voice and can play well on the instrument. For they hear your words, but they do them not. And when this come to pass, and lo, it will come, then they shall know that a prophet have been among them. He said the minute they hear them words and don't do them and go after they lust, he said that's when they going to know a prophet was there. Now, when you look at covetousness here, it's bet-sa. Bat, Sod, and Ayin. It's profit. It's unjust gain. It's gain for profit. It is acquired by violence. plunder, by extension, gain, usually unjustly, dishonest gain, lucre, profit, which is why he told you that if you were going to be a bishop, you can't be greedy for filthy lucre or unjust gain. Let's come over here to 1 Timothy 2:14. Oh, you talking about as forth as what we just read in Genesis. That Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in a transgression. And this is why in 1 Timothy 5:6, it speaks on she that liveth in pleasure is dead while she lived. Because pleasure will take you out. Let's take a look at what pleasure is in 1 Timothy 5:6 real quick. Come over here, 1 Timothy 5:6. But she that live in pleasure is dead while she live. And when you look at pleasure in this instance, it is spataleho, to live luxuriously, to lead a voluptuous life, giving oneself to pleasure. Voluptuous, to live in pleasure, to be wanton. Let's look at voluptuous in English. That's hold on. Obviously y'all know voluptuous means to usually a sexually attractive woman, but then the second definition is what you just heard: related or characterized by luxury or sensual pleasure. When you look at sensual, synonyms for luxury, for sensual or luxurious pleasure, that is sensual, luscious, luxurious, decadent, hedonistic, Epicurean, cybartic, indulgent, opulent. Have any of y'all familiar with the word hedonistic or hedonism? They have a whole festival somewhere that they call hedonism. When you're dealing with that, that's the pursuit of pleasure, usually sensual self-indulgence. Hedonistic is to be engaged in the pursuit of pleasure, and again, usually self-indulgent pleasure. Now, the reason why we're referencing all of this here is because if you live like that, you dead while you breathing. Say, yeah. You know what I'm saying? This is important because this is what Ammon did. Now, we'll look at this aspect of Ammon and look at him because he violated his sister in a vile fashion. Let's let that be known. But then we can transpose that. Come over here to Mark 7:15. Over to lust in general. Because what moved him to do this was him burning in his lusts. And then once he fulfilled that lust, he had a hatred for that which he lusted after. I don't want 15, 7 and 18. And that's usually what happens with a lot of people. You have a strong desire for something, and then once you fulfill that desire, you don't even have the same want, desire, or like for what it is you was lusting after. You know what I'm saying? This is Mark 7 and 18. This come into play like a case in point, because you might hear a lot of ladies mention this. You'll have a dude who want to be with a woman, and he chased after that woman for years, and she would never deal with him. Then she finally decides to deal with him, and she like that nigga treat her like a piece of garbage. And that nigga did that because he just had a lust for you because you were forbidden from him. And we're looking at forbidden, not necessarily saying that the woman is wicked, but for whatever reason, you're not allowing him to satiate that desire. So it's a forbidden desire. So his motivation is just to achieve or to release the desire. And when I say release the desire, I'm not talking physically per se, upon the object of said desire. But once he releases that desire, then he no longer has the desire for it, and he has utter contempt for that. And a lot of women be confused, like he did all this chasing me and this, that, there, and the third. Baby, he ain't never like you like that. He was motivated by desire. That's what you seen with Ammon, with Tamar. He thought he loved her like that, but it was really evil conspicuous that was in him. It was just a desire for that which was forbidden that was driving him. Once he fulfilled that lust, he had disdain for what he thought he loved because he never loved it. And a lot of ladies get caught up in that cycle because they confuse a nigga lusting after you as that he wants you. Because a lot of ladies in this society have some of them do, and they just lie to themselves. You have a hard time distinguishing the fact that this man is lusting after you. He don't like you. He don't want you. He don't desire you. And because dudes be lusting after you, I know women, I done heard them say this out their mouth. That, oh, them niggas want me. They know them niggas only want them sexually. They know it. But they use that as a false sense of a self-esteem boost when you know that this man don't want nothing but your body. And then once he gets your body, he treats you like you're an animal. And you wondering why. Why is he doing me this way? Baby, that nigga don't like you. You just read where the 2 Samuel said the hatred that he had for her was greater than the love that he had. So that means that love was never there. It was all lust. But let's continue. Mark 7:18. He saith unto them, are you so without understanding also? Do you not perceive that whatsoever thing from without enter into a man, it cannot defile him? Because it enter not into his heart, but into the belly, and go out into the draught, purging all meats. And he said, that which come out of the man that defile the man. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, and murders. What is an adultery? We're only going to deal with the things that pertain to desire. Adulteries, just for quick information, is mokiha, that is strictly adultery. Because I know some people like to lump adultery and fornication together. There's a reason why he gave a different definition. Pornea is fornication. And it is illicit sexual intercourse. And the reason why adultery usually gets lumped in, because it's lumped in because we know from Leviticus 20, and then in the definition, adultery, fornication, homosexuality, lesbianism, intercourse with animals, sexual intercourse with close relatives, sexual intercourse with a divorced man or woman, and then, of course, the worshiping of idols. Now, what we've seen here with Ammon is that he had illicit sexual activity with his sister. Then it says thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. So let's look at covetousness here. And this one here is plexaniha, greedy desire to have more, covetousness, avarice by implication, fraudulency, extortion, greediness, avarice. What does it mean to be avaricious? To be avaricious is showing an extreme greed for wealth or material gain. Now, this is a part that Christians would not like to hear, who talking about lack and abundance and all this here, because your extreme desire to have that, well, that's a work of the flesh. Boy, you sinning. But they're not going to tell us that this man told you not to be covetous, not to be avarice. You're not supposed to be concerned with that. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. You know what I'm saying? But, a lot of people don't want God because they feel like he pay later. I want mine right now. Now, you have lasciviousness. Of course, most of y'all have heard that word, lewd and lascivious conduct. And that is aslagia, unbridled lust, excess licentiousness, lasciviousness, wantonness, outrageousness, shamelessness, insolence. Filthy, lasciviousness, wantonness, and licentiousness. What is it to be licentious? Now, you notice that it said that's unbridled lust, which is what you've seen also. This is someone who is promiscuous, unprincipled in sexual matters. Clearly, we just seen Ammon was completely unprincipled in a sexual matter. You understand? All of that's the works of the flesh, and those of us who walk in the spirit don't fulfill the lust of the flesh. See, people don't want to hear that, because it jives into the context of what it is that they're lusting after. This is the things of why the people killed Mashiach, and this is the things of why the apostles and prophets of old were rejected. Because don't nobody want to hear that. You know what I'm saying? People don't want to hear that, for real, for real. But let's continue. Verse 15. 2 Samuel. 2 Samuel 13 and 15, I'm sorry. Then Ammon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he loved her. And Ammon said to her, Arise and be gone. She said unto him, There is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that you did unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, Put now this woman out from me and bolt the door. That nigga say, Lock the door. God damn. That nigga said, lock the door. Now, the reason why I see it in my mind why we ended up going that way and listening to the stuff that the people were talking about with wealth as it pertains to that is to just show you the same attribute of what lust can get you. I'll read the 1 Timothy 6 where he talked about that. Because lust can get you out of pocket, man. It can get you out of pocket. It can get you way somewhere else. I want to just get that word for bold. It can get you way somewhere where you're not supposed to be. And it can happen way faster than you think. Na'al, Noon, Ayin, and Lamad, to bar, to lock, to bolt. That boy hit her with the Marvin Sapp. Lock the doors. Make sure she can't come back in here. You know what I'm talking about? But let's continue. This is verse 18 of 2 Samuel 13. And she had garments of diverse colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then the servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. Then Tamar put her ashes on her head and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head and went on crying. And Absalom, her brother, said unto her, Have Ammon your brother been with you? But now hold your shalom, my sister. He is your brother. Regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. But when David the king heard of all these things, he was very wroth. Absalom spake unto his brother Ammon, neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Ammon because he had forced his sister Tamar. Now we're going to look at forced here, so you can see what that means. And we'll look at the testimony part that's contained in 18 and 19. When you look at forced, that is a nah, and that means he humbled her. He humbled his sister, man. That nigga nasty. So when you look at verse 18, she had a diverse colored robe of what the virgins were apparelled with. How would some of you line that up with the gospel? Because after that, she put ashes on her head and took off the garment of diverse colors, or rent it anyway. Could anybody tell me where they can see the gospel lined up in this? Going once? Going twice? I still give you a little opportunity. I think somebody's going to be able to put 2 and 2 together here. You got to be a little bit more specific, Omar. This whole here stupid, man. Not y'all, man. Doggone lady at Enterprise, nigga, stupid, man. Matthew 27, 50 and 51. Let's see what we got. There you go, Sean. Yeah, the robe changing. The robe changing. Now you have to ascertain the diverse colors Where are you going to get your diverse colors from with the robes to justify that? Because you mentioned the scarlet robe, but you got 2 more to go along with that. $27 and $50, man. I'm almost there, man. Now you looking at when he gave up the ghost with the splitting of the temple. That was a little different. So this is what I want us to do. I'm going to come over here to Matthew 27 and see if anybody can put together the other 2, or where you can see how these robes. Now I noticed there was a lot around that to get to you to this part that what his testimony is. But it's always one, praise be to the Father in the name of Yahushua, ducked off in the cut for you. So in Matthew 27, it said, then the soldiers of the governor took Yahushua into the common hall and gathered them into the whole band. They stripped him and put on him a scarlet robe. Then they platted a crown of thorns and they put it upon his head, a reed in his right hand. And they bowed the knee before him and mocked him, saying, hail the Malach of the Yahudim. And then they spit upon him and took the reed and smote on him on the head. After they mocked him, they took the robe off from him and put his own raiment on him and led him away to crucify him. So now come over here to Luke, what, 23? Was it 23? Was it 22?
Okay. Leave them lights alone.
Boopster. 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 Boopster.
Hello.
Boopster.
Bumpy.
I don't care about all that. Yeah, we'll just hit that one there, Brother Ernest. Come over to Luke 23. Luke 23 and 7. Boopster. Boopster. And after that, John 19 and 1. Luke 23 and 7. And as soon as he knew that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent unto Herod, who himself also was at Jerusalem at that time. And when Herod saw Yahushua, he was exceedingly glad, for he was desirous to see him for a long season, because he had heard many things of him. He hoped to see some miracle done by him. And he questioned him with him in many words, but he answered him nothing. And the chief priests and scribes stood and vehemently accused him. And Herod, with his men of war, sent him at night and mocked and arrayed him in a gorgeous robe and sent him again to Pilate. What does it mean to be in a gorgeous robe? Well, I just want you to hear the definition of the word gorgeous, I should say. And that one there is lampros. Splendid things, luxury or elegance as dress or style, clear, transparent, brilliant, or shining, magnificent, sumptuous, bright, clear, gay, goodly, gorgeous, white. Let me read you diverse robe from 2 Samuel, because I definitely didn't read that. Now, when you look at her garment of diverse colors, it should be referring to a linen tunic. Diverse colors is pas, pay, and samak, a tunic reaching to the palms and soles. So, you know, when you see diverse colors in that there, people think a lot of things, but it's really referring to a tunic, usually a linen tunic. And of course, garment here is kethoneth, kaf, ta, u, and noon. Well, noon and tau, excuse me. And that's a tunic, or undergarment, a long shirt-like garment, usually of linen. Yeah, that's different. That's different. Wrote down because before with Joseph, but it's the same type of garment that she had on. Same type of garment that Joseph had on. With the now you're good, Ernest, man. With that diverse colors, it's the same type of garment. Just a linen tunic. When you see a robe of diverse colors, it's just referring to a linen tunic. This is John 19 and 1. Then Pilate therefore took Yahushua and scourged. And the soldiers platted a crown of thorns and put it on his head, and they put on him a purple robe and said, "Hail the Malach of the Yahudim," and they smote him with their hands. So you've got a purple robe, a gorgeous robe, a scarlet robe. Now, when you look at all these things, I can give you the definition of robe. And that is himation, a garment of any sort, garments, the cloak or the mantle, and the tunic, the upper garment, the cloak or the mantle. And I'm mentioning that because it's a linen tunic. It's the same thing. It's a linen tunic. You know, a linen robe. That's what that is. A mantle or a linen garment. That's what they put on it. So when you see that purple, that scarlet, and that gorgeous one is the same as her, these are the garments of his virginity, if you would. Let me give you virginity in 2 Samuel by definition. So these are the things that the virgins were appareled in. And that was also too, right? I think we was talking about that, how somebody would know somebody was married, because that's a prime example of what it's talking about. Certain outfits that the virgins wore. So this is how everybody knew she was a virgin. Certain outfits that wives wore. That's how everybody knew that she was a wife. That's how they knew these things. It's not like how we live now. And I could get why people would think that, how you know she was married, because that's how they lived culturally. Wives wore particular garments. Virgins wore particular garments. Widows wore particular garments. You know, unmarried women who had been married before and are unmarried for whatever reason wore particular garments. This is how they knew. Culturally, that's how they lived. This like the thought process like we have with most of our women, and now I want to be cute, this, that, there, and the third. See, that got them women in trouble. That's why he said what he said in Isaiah 3. Oh, I'm taking that. I'm taking this. I'm taking that. I'm taking this. Because when I gave y'all that, you didn't know how to act. You got concerned with the wrong thing. Because God don't care about you being cute. He don't care nothing about that. That's what you care about. You know what I'm saying? And theoretically, from a natural point of view, ain't nothing wrong with you caring about that. But as forth as like when we read in Peter or you read in Timothy, you start caring about that, it pull your mind away from God. He don't want you to be concerned with that. And a lot of times we don't be thinking that can happen. But it can. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, look at, man, to get bandied about with your own personal desires and convincing yourself that you pleasing God can happen to you so fast, man, because you trying to justify, rationalize, and reason in your mind while what you want to do is just before God. And next thing you know, you be out the way. That's true. That's facts. You say even the harlots dress modestly, but yeah, harlots didn't walk around with booty cheeks out, cleavage hanging out. They ain't how they move. But the harlots wore a particular garment the way you knew this was a harlot. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is really how they lived in Yasharal, man. The hoes had particular clothes on because it just wasn't a proper thing, harlot or not, for a woman to be walking around half naked. That's just not how they operated. You know what I'm saying? Just culturally. That's not how they live. And I know it'd be hard for us to fathom that because them people ain't live like that. It just wasn't their life. So you have to keep that in mind. You feel me? But nevertheless, I know I said I was going to read 1 Timothy 6. I got the definition of virgin right here also. Bethula, Bat, Tau, U, Lamad, Hey, virgin. A virgin from her privacy. A maid, a virgin. Virgin from her privacy mean, yeah, she ain't never done that before. I read 1 Timothy 6, man, we get off here. Or what I mentioned to the lady. 6:3. If any man teach otherwise and consent not to wholesome words, even the words of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, and to the doctrine which is according to godliness, he is proud, knowing nothing but doting about questions and strifes of words, whereof come envy, strife, railings, and evil surmisings, perverse disputings, men of corrupt minds, destitute of the truth, supposing that gain is godliness. From such withdraw yourself. What is gain? Because a lot of people feel like if I come up, that means God with me. But that's a dangerous place to be. Because that man say those are perverse disputings of men of corrupt minds. And that they are destitute. What is it to be destitute? To despoil, to defraud, or to rob. To be kept back by fraud. That means these people are using the truth by fraud. What is gain here? That's acquisition, gain, porsmos, source of gain, furnishing, procuring, money getting, acquisition, gain. But he said, but godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain we can carry nothing out. And having food and raiment, let us therewith be content. But they that will be rich fall into temptation and a snare, and into many foolish and hurtful lusts, which drown men in destruction and perdition. Because what I told her, I said, hey, man, that man letting you know, got to be careful with that. Does that mean every person can fall victim to that? No, it doesn't. But he said you fall through with many, many temptations and snares. That means there's many testings and traps. And who would want to be tested and trapped like that? You know what I mean? Because as strong as you might think you are, you'll find out you ain't strong as you thought you were. You know what I mean? So it's stuff that you got to weigh in and consider it. Because you know what I'm saying? Because desire and lust can be a hell of a thing. You feel me? So hallelujah for Yahushua in the word. We don't start right there, man. Second back, back inside of 2 Samuel 13. Goes into other things. It really goes into Absalom killing Buddy. And then Absalom fleeing. And we'll deal with all that because he don't just kill Ammon. He killed a few of his brothers. You know what I mean? But nevertheless, I appreciate y'all. I bless y'all the house of Alahym in the name of Yahushua. I love y'all. Yahuwah willing, man. We'll be back at it on Shabbat. Make it do what it do. Yeah. Just weigh and consider, man, because lust is a dangerous thing. It's a dangerous game to play. And that's why you have to make sure that you crucify your affections and lust, like it say in Galatians. Peace, brother, my man. And live unto a Mashiach, man. And it's not just about the money aspect. You just use that as a prime example. Amen. Shalom, Sister Regina. Yeah, it is what it is, man. It is what it is, Omar. It is what it is. Hey, amen, man. Love you too, bro. Be safe, man. You know what I mean? Yahuwah broke me. You know what I mean? So it just is what it is when it comes to lust and what lust can do. You feel me? It's not something you want to get caught up with because you can get caught up and out the way, period. Remember, he said, man, if you do well, you shall be accepted. But if not, sin lie at the door, and that desire get hold to you. That desire get hold to you. And every man ain't caught up with the desiring of the same things because it's not just to focus on money. That's just the focus of the conversation because of people going crazy about this man's skit. Now, desire here in that particular passage in Genesis 4 is teshkua, desire, longing, craving. You know what I'm saying? That what you long and crave for, it can get you out the way, or it can rule over you. That ain't got to be money. It ain't got to be sex. It can be, some people it's attention. Some people it's validation. You know what I'm saying? Some people it's power. It can be whatever. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to isolate it to these things that everybody be looking at. You know what I mean? Slow, man. Hold it down, my G. So you gotta weigh and consider that. As he say, man, every man know the plagues of his own heart. So you always got to be careful. Make sure you curb those desires and let your desire be of those things that be in heaven. You feel me? So yeah, y'all willing, man, to the Shabbat, man, we make it do what it do. All right, y'all.